So today's lesson is going to test your ability to recognize an equation and attach it to the proper type of graph. Just remember that the key property of each type of graph. If you don't already know what I'm about to point out, then you might want to make sure you write it down for your own use. Again, if some of this stuff has still been missing, so when I say it to you, if you think to yourself, I didn't know that, you might just want to write it. But again, in this case, the parabola only has one variable squared, because it's either going to be y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, or it's going to be x equals a times y minus k squared plus h. Your circle has both variables squared. Again, your x is squared, your y is squared, and it's equal to that part. It's because that radius is there, it's going to be the same amount in both directions, vertically and horizontally. Your ellipse, again, has both variables squared and positive, which again is key, but it's a different amount on both, so therefore you have to set it equal to 1. And then your hyperbola pretty much is taking your ellipse and making one of those variables negative. When you write the quote-unquote standard form for this, always put your x first. It doesn't matter for your ellipse. When you write your standard form for this, always put the positive variable first so that it's ready for that. But outside of that, it's just really an exercise in completing the square and getting some practice on it. So all the important information should be able to be found in the beginning phases if you've worked to understand how each equation works. And what I mean by beginning phases is standard form, or the general form, is always going to be x squared, x, y, and your number equals 0. So if there is no x squared in front, then that means that there's no x squared. And because there's no x squared, that means we know that this is a parabola, which means in general cases it should be an x equals formula. So let's see what we get. First off, there's no x squared, so again, my thing would probably be to go ahead and complete the square of my y. So 5y squared plus 40y plus 88. I'm going to leave some room for that. And again, I know I want my x over there, so I'm going to put my equals x over there just in case. Again, doesn't have to be perfectly put together first. It's just making sure you organize it. I'm going to factor off my 5, getting y squared plus 8y plus blank plus 88 minus blank equals x. I am now going to complete the square, being y plus 4 squared, which makes 16. 16 times 5 is 80. Negative 80 plus 88 is positive 8. And I believe your formula would be this. Because again, I believe you're going to move your x to the front, because that is the standard form that they gave us, and that's it. This would have a vertex at 8, -4, blah, 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 all the stuff that we've been doing to get that done. Again, let me know if you're having issues with this so I can try to help you out. But in general, you should be able to kind of look at it in the beginning. For example, on B, looking at this, you have both of them squared, which means it's either a circle, squared and positive, which means it's either a circle or an ellipse. Because both of these have the same amount attached to them in front, which is nothing at all, it means it's more than likely a circle. So let's see, and we'll know in the end. So we want to organize this. So x squared minus 8x, we want y squared plus 6y, we want our plus 9, we want our equals 0. I think we can go ahead and set this up just because there's nothing else to do but make this x minus 4 squared, which becomes 16. To offset that, subtract 16. This is going to become y plus 3 squared, which becomes plus 9, which means we subtract 9. And in the end, to me, that's going to be 9 and 9 cancel out, making minus 16. And because I'm pretty sure that this is, because these are not, again, they're the same thing, it's a circle, which means I need it equal to the radius. So I'm going to write x minus 4 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 16. And that's all. So again, kind of working with these things a little bit, putting some practice in. That's why I said your practice is important. It wasn't so much for the graphs themselves. I mean, it was for the graphs themselves, but if you practice something enough times, you kind of know what it looks like because you've had experience with it. In this case, again, because both of these are squared and positive, we know we're talking about a circle or ellipse. But because both of these numbers are different, we know it's an ellipse, which means we want it to equal 1. That's just what we learned from our experience. So I'm going to set this up, 16x squared minus 192x, 49y squared minus 882y plus 3761 equals 0. I still have work to do, so I'm going to factor off my 16. giving me 12. Factor off my 49, giving me 18. These are both negative. Yes, they are. Okay. Plus blank, plus 3761, because that's going to be positive. We want to subtract a blank for that because that's going to be positive. We want to subtract a blank for that. That still equals 0, even though I have that there and almost threw myself off. And then we wrap this up, or get ready to wrap this up. X squared minus 6x, no, x squared minus 6, sorry, squared, which makes 36, plus 49 times y minus 9 squared, which makes 81. So 36, no, that's not 36. I'm really losing it. I can tell I'm ready to quit. 36 times 16 turns into 576. 81 times 49 turns into 3969. In the end, we type this in and get 3761 minus 576 minus 3969 equals negative 784. Actually, because I know what I'm going to do, because I've worked with this, I know it's going to equal 784. And then in the end, I'm going to divide everything by 784, so I don't need to write it. I'm just going to do 784 divided by 16 to realize it's going to be 49. So it's going to be x minus 6 squared over 49 plus, again, noticing how that works, y minus 9 squared over 16 equals 1, and that is it. That is where your practice comes in. That's where experience comes in. Because you start to learn what's going to happen, you start to recognize some patterns. And again, if you don't know how to do that part, then just make sure you do it the standard way. Because remember, we've already done this. It's just a matter of putting all this together on this one thing here. And then, of course, the last one here is blatantly a hyperbola. Why do I know? Because both of them are squared, which means it's got to be a rounded shape, so it's not a parabola. And notice how your 9 is positive and your 4 is negative. So again, we're going to go through this. And we want to factor off our 9, so x squared minus 4. Make sure when you take your negative off here that it changes that as well. So we have minus 4 times y squared plus 12. Yeah. Plus blank minus 144. That's going to be a positive number, so minus blank. That is going to be a negative number, so we have to offset it by adding it, equaling 0. And then in the end, 9, or not in the end, but getting ready for the end, 9 times x, I keep wanting to square it, 9 times x minus 2 squared, which brings up 4, which makes that 36. Minus 4 times y plus 6 squared, which makes 36. 36 times 4 is 120 plus 24, which is 144. Looks to me again like those two things cancel, so minus 36. But again, because I know I want it equal to 1 because it's a hyperbola, I'm going to set it equal to positive 36. And then I know when I divide by 36, that's going to become 4 because 36 divided by 9 is 4. 36 divided by 4 is 9, and that is our goal. All right. So again, with all that said, that's completing the square video that I gave to you the day after that test. Hopefully you see why it was so important, because again, if that process is not easy to you at this point, you're probably struggling just a little bit, and there's really nothing I can do but tell you to watch the video again, because I can't really teach you completing the square at the very end of the year, especially when there's a video that kind of explains it to you. It does represent your final lesson coping with the actual graphs of conic sections. Tomorrow we're going to look at how to do higher level systems work with the equations. Just hang in there, we're almost done. Outside of that, again, go ahead and move to your homework and let me know if I can help you with anything. Good luck.